So I'm going to talk about our field experience with this pro-microbial enhancement product for lice prevention. And as Kira said, we did launch our commercial product in 2020. And it's called StemBiont, and it's the same composition with the bacteria that she has been doing the lab studies on. And the fish are then normally dipped in a 1:20 dilution in the anesthetic bath at vaccination. And we have then been performing a lice evaluation at both pen level and also site level. And in the data set, we have a total of 4.73 million fish with StemBiont. And of those, 37% of those are S1s, and that means that they are vaccinated in the fall and put to sea in the spring. That means also that they have been administered StemBiont in the fall. So for the evaluation of lice effect on the pen level, we have been looking at the site with 50% StemBiont fish, and then using the ordinary lice counts that they are performing on 20 fish every week per pen. But we've also been doing precision lice counts, so 60 fish per pen at 2 different time points, both 6 and 12 months in sea. And then looking into the difference in lice numbers over time, and also difference in risk of getting lice, as well as if there was any difference in the delousing effect. So for the evaluation at pen level, the top table there are showing the ordinary lice counts up to 11 months for the different pens. And we there see a difference of 12 to 20% decrease on the StemBiont pens. But perhaps more interestingly, also fewer weeks with higher adult female lice numbers for the StemBiont pens. So, but using those lice counts of only 20 fish per pen per week is not very accurate, so at least it gives a good indication. But that's also why we included these precision counts. And there we saw that on 6 months, there was a small difference between the groups, so 11%, but at 12 months, that one had increased to 46%. So at least it looks like the effect is not diminishing, it looks like it's increasing over time. The same precision lice counts we also use to analyze risk of getting lice, so then we're just looking if the fish have a lice or not. And then we also saw that for the StemBiont groups, we had a reduction in the relative risk of getting lice infestations. That ranged up to 53% for different lice stages, and also at 12 months. And also here it looks like perhaps a tendency towards greater effect, a higher risk reduction from 6 to 12 months for the StemBiont. And then, of course, while we had these quite interesting findings from the lab studies with this deformed female lice, etc., we were interested also to looking into if there could be any difference in the delousing effect that these pro-microbial enhanced lice, so to say, were kind of weaker and perhaps easier to fall off during a delousing. So again, the same site with 50-50 pens with StemBiont and controls. They have been treated quite regularly, all pens, using different methods from freshwater to hydrogen peroxide, acetaminophen, and thermalizer. And we did also see here that you had a significant better effect on on adult female lice and the StemBiont pens by 16%. But we did not see any difference for the motile lice. When looking at the lice effect at site level, we have been looking at 8 sites with an average number of fish with StemBiont of 66%, and then we've been using these ordinary lice counts available publicly at the Barents. And as an example of the potential effect on the StemBiont site, you have here illustrated with one site with 100% fish with StemBiont, stocked the same week as the reference site, which is only 2.5 kilometers apart. And we see quite a difference in the building up of adult female lice, which is the red line there. And after a year in the sea, the StemBiont site had 2 less delousings, And we also here saw a 19% better delousing effect on adult female lice, which is accordingly to what we saw when comparing pen to pen level. Another example of the lice development differences is also seen here. Again, a site with 100% stem beyond lice, and then comparing both to the neighbor, but also comparing generationally, so how they were performing the last generation without stem beyond compared to this generation with stem beyond. And the arrows there indicates the delousing, so a thick arrow is delousing of a whole site, while a narrow stem arrow is delousing part of the site. And what we saw here was that both sites had a decrease in lice numbers for this last generation. But the difference was that the stem beyond site were able to reduce the number of delousings from 2 to 0 in the first 9 months, while the neighbor side were increasing from 1 to 4 delousings. And then they were using also the same preventative lice management, so the only kind of the biggest difference here is the introduction of stem beyond for the 2021 generation for the stem beyond site. So then diving further into the generational effect, we then also been looking at several sites. So we then are looking at the average number of adult female lice for the previous generation compared to the latest generation, and the aquamarine lines here are the stem beyond sites. So, and the thick lines are then the average. So we see that comparing to the neighbor sites with the same seed transfer period, we see that these stem beyond sites have an average of 24% less adult female lice, while the reference sites have an average increase of 29%. And these are also statistical significant findings. So there's something else going on these stem beyond sites that are not that you do not see on the neighbor sites in the same sea lice area. And we do see the same kind of tendency also for the motile lice, while there were not statistical significant differences, but at least the same tendency to more motile lice on the reference sites, while we have a decrease on the stem beyond site. So to kind of sum up, we have this pro-microbial enhancement product that was developed to kind of improve skin health and mainly reduce the risk of ulcerations. By just kind of using this product once in anesthetic bath in a dip during vaccination, we do see this long-term and significant findings on lice prevalence. So we do see a reduction up to 12 months at least, and we also see a reduced risk of getting lice up to 50% risk reduction. And we also see an increased effect on the delousing on adult female lice. So at least that indicates that even though we do not know necessarily everything, what's going on and why we see what we're seeing, there must be something else here besides the kind of traditional pro-microbial effect of just outcompeting other bacteria. So this is something we are kind of also diving more into, but we are also wishing welcome collaborators if anyone wants to kind of take a look further into this together with us. So thank you for your attention.